Maya, 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 Maya,
Alo? Salut! Sunt eu, un haiduc și te rog, iubirea mea, primește fericirea. Alo? Alo? Sunt eu, Picasso, ți-am dat bip și sunt voinic, dar să știi, nu-ți cer nimic. Vrei să pleci, dar numai ei, numai ei, numai ei, chipul tău și dragostea.
Greetings, Uncle Travelling Matt here, and I'm reporting back on our final day of our Romania and Moldova and Pridniestrovia and Ukraine adventure. And it's been chilled. It's been chilled. We got in early in the morning to Bucharest, Gare du Nord. It's a special station for me, the Gare du Nord is. It's a big, busy, atmospheric station. It's 19th century, at least in parts, although the main body of it is quite Art Deco, and it's a beautiful station, but it's special for me because in 1998, when I arrived into Romania by plane, the first time I'd flown into Eastern Europe. I mean, I'd had like a day on a ferry in Albania several years before, but that was it. Like, this was where I really started my Eastern European, my communist world exploring, and I found myself deposited at the Gare du Nord, and I booked myself into a hotel just down the road, actually on the very same street that this apartment's on, and got swindled out of 40 quid of cash in a sleight of hand trick. The guy said, "Oh, is that English money? I've never seen English money. Can I see it?" And I showed it to him. He said, "Oh, that's great," and then gave it me back. And it was only later I realised he'd given me several worthless Romanian notes and taken the English money. And yeah, beginner's bad luck, I guess. But I mean, 40 quid was a lot then. It's probably like 100, 150 now, something like that. Well, we've been swindled today as well, but not quite as badly. But I'm going to talk about that later. We got in absolutely knackered. I mean, I did actually sleep quite well on the plane, on the train, but it had been so hot. We were just, both of us, really zombied. So we went into McDonald's to get a coffee and a breakfast, and that didn't do the trick. And then we couldn't check into our accommodation until 3 o'clock. So we took the metro, one of Ceausescu's great mega projects. Really bloody dingy it is. It was dingy when I first went in 1998. I'd got all excited about going on this socialist metro system because I'd heard about the ones in Moscow and that, and it's just really dingy. But yeah, anyway, it still is. It's worse now, and because they've just not done anything for 20 odd years to it, although the rest of the city's been torted up quite nicely. I went to Piazza Unaria. Piazza Unaria is the enormous plaza on the boulevard of the victory of socialism that Ceausescu built when he was remodelling the city after Pyongyang. And I went there because on Piazza Unaria is my favourite place in the whole of Bucharest, which is I think it's called Han Manuk. Manuk was an Armenian merchant in the 18th and early 19th century. So it's like an Ottoman Khan. And it's a wonderful place to sit and eat in the evening or in the afternoon, to sit and drink coffee and while the day away. It's a glorious, glorious building right in the heart of Bucharest. But when we got there, it didn't open until 10. We were really tired, so we actually sat in the graveyard, beautifully kept. I don't even know it was a graveyard, it was more like a garden, in the church next to us. and dozed. And the church was this massive queue of people there, and we thought, oh, it was just because they were starting mass. But they stayed like they were still queuing out onto the road like an hour or so later, and we sat there dozing, and there was an Orthodox mass going on in the church, a wonderful old church, I think dedicated to Saint Anthony, and that was like our kind of soundtrack as we dozed away next to a homeless guy who decided to talk to us, and his stomach had a big like. He'd been stitched together, and he had big wounds all over him. He was completely knackered, the guy was. But yeah, we the only problem was there was these sprinklers watering the plants, and every so often they'd move a bit. So every so often you'd get a bit wet, and you'd have to move further down the bench until we ran out of bench. We had to move to another bench. But yeah, we dozed away, and that gave us a bit of energy. And we had a little walk around the area, I wanted to go to the National History Museum of Bucharest, either because I've never been or I can't remember ever going. And it was shut, and I think that's why I didn't go before. I think it was shut then. Also had a look at my favourite restaurant in Bucharest. So what I loved about Bucharest before is it was so cheap that you could go to the most famous, most expensive restaurant in town and it wouldn't break the bank. And it was called Caracubere, I think, the House of Beer. And it's a very like Hogwarts type building, you know, with all this like Gothic architecture and stuff. And I went twice. I went in 2012 because I heard about it then, and I went again in 2016 with Paul Daly and Tom. And it's an amazing place, absolutely amazing place. But like, I looked at the menu now, and the dishes, like the mains were like 40 quid each and stuff. And the big bad news about Bucharest is it's gone Western in its prices. It is basically on a par with Western Europe in what they're charging. It's ridiculous. I wouldn't pay those prices at home. So no more going to the most expensive restaurant in this city, unfortunately. That little pleasure is denied. But I've been twice before, and it is a nice building. Next to it was this wonderful little church, 18th century, I think. We went in there, and gorgeous frescoes and carved stone. It was absolutely atmospheric. And it was a monastery, and you could walk around the cloister, and they collected stones from churches all around the country, and that was pleasant. But I'll be honest, we're not really in a sightseeing mood. We'd kind of, you know, we're at that stage now. We've seen what we wanted to see, and we're tired, and yeah. So we went to a bar. Thomas had a beer, and I had a lemonade. And they did these cheeseburgers, like with thick cheese sauce, and we'd had that in Lvov before, and we both loved it. So we had these cheeseburgers were so dirty, they gave you medical gloves to eat them with because you would just get so filthy eating all this cheese. But it was wonderful. So we had these, and you know, stuck around, had another drink in there, and then. Thomas has been wanting to get a football top. He likes to get like tops from random football clubs around the world, like not big and famous ones. He would never have a Real Madrid top or something like that, but like these smaller clubs. And so we asked the guy, and he said, "Oh, there was a shop down the road." So Tom popped there, but he was like, "They're 100 quid each, Dad." And I'm like, "My God, you wouldn't pay that in Britain, let alone here." So we went to the Museum of Communism, which is a new place, and only opened a couple of years, and it's in an old apartment, and it kind of documents the Ceausescu regime. And obviously, you know, people who follow my videos for a while know that I really, really find communist regimes very interesting. And the Romanian one was quite different to some of the others. It wasn't very close Moscow, and they did engage with the West, which makes you think, well, he could be a bit like Tito in Yugoslavia, but whereas Tito was genuinely liberal, Ceausescu was almost as repressive as Enver Hoxha in Albania. So it would work with the West and the East, but it was very repressive, and it did things its own way. Having gone to the museum, I mean, the museum was anti-communist in tone, which you would expect. I mean, these museums generally are. I find it harder to be pro-Ceausescu than I do for most other communist leaders. I mean, like, what they did in the 70s, the 60s and 70s, I think they modernised quite well. And, I think they did a lot around education and industry and stuff. It was quite positive. But in the 80s, for some reason, he got obsessed with, A, building mega projects, and B, not having any foreign debt. And so, basically, in the 80s, the Romanians were put on rationing, and it was like real hardcore austerity. And some of the projects were, people slag off the mega projects, but I think the remodeling of Bucharest is not as bad as a lot of people say. I think in the future it'll be seen as, it'll probably be UNESCO registered, because it's unique. I thought it didn't do a particularly bad job. And the metro, yeah, it's dingy, but a metro is not a waste of money. But like one of the projects was the Danube Black Sea Canal, and we took the train that ran alongside it back in 2016, and I didn't see a single boat on it. And I was talking to the girl in the museum, and she said they worked out that to repay it fully, in terms of like money, let alone the lives that were lost building it, it would cost, it would take 600 years. So I don't know, because I guess he was trying to build an industrialised society, and Romania, like a lot of Europe, has been deindustrialised since communism. So maybe it would be carrying more if his vision had been completed. But as things stand, a complete and utter waste of money. And the other thing that made them very different from the other communist regimes is, a lot of communist regimes were very enlightened when it came to women's rights. So East Germany, for example, a lot of free contraception, a lot of kindergarten places and that kind of stuff, so women could work and have babies. Probably, I think, because Ceausescu was a peasant, as was his wife Elena, they had this big drive on increasing the population, and so contraception was forbidden, abortion was forbidden, and there were regular checks to see if women were pregnant, and women who had a lot of babies were lauded as heroes of the revolution, and so the population shot up, which probably meant it was a lot harder to feed them all as well. And that's, that goes against almost any other communist regime, apart from Enver Hoxha's Albania. We're talking at the same time, the Chinese are instituting the one-child policy, the Vietnamese the two-child policy. And apparently the fertility rates were below 2 before Ceausescu introduced this, and they are now below 2 after. So, a bit weird that, and not particularly progressive, I think. But, that was the way Ceausescu chose to do things. So we went to this museum. It was quite good fun. And then we were really tired, and it was 3 o'clock the time to check into the hotel, which was by the Garden. So we took the metro back there, found the place. It was an apartment that I hired through Booking.com, and couldn't get in. And they weren't answering. We tried, there were some Indians next door, they were very helpful, and they rang up the number for us, and it was like, this number is not recognised. We'd messaged them and said, can we check in between 3 and 4, which that was the time we were there. Nobody was there to wait for us. There was a PIN code with the booking, so we thought that might work with the key cabinet. Didn't. And they'd left no PIN, they'd left nothing, so we couldn't get in, so we had to actually book another apartment, which we're in there now. It's a few streets away. The guy was really friendly. It's really nice, actually. 42 quid it's cost us, but, it's okay for the night. 3 bedrooms, and, but yeah, a bit pissed off about that. So I have been in touch with Booking.com, had a little moan, let's see if we can get the money back. So that was that. Had a doze in here, felt better. In the evening, went back into Piazza Uniril. It's also been very hot, ridiculous, 34, I think, today. So it's cooled down a bit. It's only about 22 now. And went to the Khan Kumanuk, and it had a wonderful, wonderful platter of cheese and cooked meats and salad and a couple of beers to celebrate the end of the holiday. And there was folk dancing, and it was wonderful, and it was really nice. And Thomas and I mean, I'm going to reflect properly on the holiday tomorrow. So, although this is the last day of the trip, in a way it isn't, because we've got tomorrow, which is when we fly out, but we've actually got a whole day in Beauvais in France. Now, I'm not really looking at it as the same trip because it's so very different, but what I hope to do then is a reflection on everything that's gone on and that. But what I will say is Thomas and I sat there and we said, it's an end of an era because it's probably the last trip we're doing together as father and son. I mean, I'm sure I'll join him in places or he'll join me. But, you know, as a father-son trip, it's an end of era. But neither of us feel particularly sad about it. And that's not because we haven't enjoyed ourselves. We have. And it's not that we don't generally get on. He can be a pain sometimes, and I'm sure he'll say the same about me. But it's, I don't know, it's just time. It's a new stage in life. And, but, you know, although some people might say, well, it's not the world's most exciting destinations, and you know, and yes, this part of the world is a lot tamer than it was when I first started exploring it. It's still good and well worth coming. Romania is a wonderful country. But more on that tomorrow. This is me in the sweltering heat of Bucharest saying...
Chipul tău și dragostea din tei Mi-amintesc de ochii tăi Vrei să pleci, dar numai ei Numai ei Numai ei Chipul tău și dragostea din tei Mi-amintesc de ochii tăi
Te sun, să-ți spun ce simt acum. Alo, iubirea mea, sunt eu, fericirea.